setting up for the 10 p.m. Afrobeat after party. And we have a caller calling in. I think he says he's calling from Cincinnati. Good evening, caller. What's your first name? Where you calling from?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. This is Cliff from Connecticut.
Connecticut. How you doing?
Brother David, that I was listening to your guest in like a little bit over 5 minutes, and the substance of what this brother was speaking and the way he articulated and the level of consciousness. Now, no disrespect, brother, but you didn't mention his name. And I said to myself, man, this got to sound like Brother Omar Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
And so sure enough, it is, because you only mentioned his name at the end of your break. But let me say this, that this brother, man, is right on point. And Brother Johnson, let me encourage you, ma'am, to continue to do what you're doing. You're a godsend to the black people. And so continue to do what you're doing. Please give that brother and introduce his name as much as you can, because the brother is certainly worthy of it. So with that being said, with your school, my last question, in your school, Brother Johnson, Dr. Johnson, if you were to teach religion, what type of religion would you teach to our black students? Would it be Christianity or form Christianity or spiritualism? Please explain if you understand my question.
Yes, sir. Great question. As I was saying earlier to Elder David, our school is zoned as a parochial institution. That's the zoning. It must be a charter school or a parochial school. I am an initiated priest of Ifa, and that is the spiritual system that I follow, and that will be the spiritual foundation of the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. Children will not have to participate. So let's say you have a child who comes from an Islamic household or a Christian household where they believe that you cannot embrace your ancestors, you cannot pour libations, you cannot learn about the various spiritual entities that exist in our universe. That's okay. They don't have to practice. They will not have to engage in any of the spiritual activities, but they must learn about them.
Mm-hmm.
The same way a child may learn about Christianity in public school, but not practice Christianity. But Ifa, the spiritual system of the Yoruba peoples of southwestern Nigeria, will be the foundation of our school.
That's great. You know, I had a very similar question, but you answered my questions about what type of religion. But you said it won't be mandatory, but it will be available.
Right. Well, they will. It's mandatory that they learn it.
Okay.
But it is not mandatory that they practice.
Right. Absolutely.
You follow? So let's say you have a Muslim child or Jehovah's Witness young brother, and he learns about what libation means. But when we actually go to pour the libation, he doesn't have to pour.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he will learn what it is to offer Eba or an offering to one of the divinities. He will learn what that means. But when we actually go to offer Eba, do an offering to a divinity, an offering of water or fruit or food, whatever we give to that particular divinity, he will not have to participate in that offering, but he will have to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. So there's the intellectual side. That's the part that every child must participate in, the learning of the culture. But then there's the practical side, and that will be at the parents' discretion if they actually do the practical application of that system.
Are there any other school districts similar to what you are proposing on a religious basis?
I think we're going to be the first in terms of merging, Baba David, the Pan-Africanism of Marcus Garvey with the traditional African spirituality of our ancestors. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you have independent schools where they have certain aspects of African spirituality. Mm-hmm. I'm not aware of any independent schools where learning traditional African spirituality is a subject. It is a course of study. It's not just put your dashiki on, beat some drums, learn the names of the continent. They will study the spiritual system scientifically. It is a course. Marcus Garvey will be a course for every year from kindergarten all the way up. And, of course, we'll be starting with 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. You will master a different aspect of the life and works of Frederick Douglass, as well as the life and works of Marcus Garvey, as well as traditional African spirituality. I believe we will be the first school ever, independent black school, not taking any money from anyone, who will offer both sides of that, the political effectiveness of a Garvey, but the spiritual foundation of our West African ancestors.
Well, a lot of people complain about them having taken religion out of the schools, taking God out of schools. But can you imagine how much self-esteem that would provide to our children when you instill them with our very own religion?
And not only that, Baba David, I plan on having traditional priests of Ifa and Iyanifas. They're going to come to the school, priest and priestess, and every child will get a divination to find out what is the ruling divinity of their head, you see. So in Yoruba culture, we're all born under the influence of a particular divinity. The divinities are God's ambassadors. They are God's emissaries. They are God's workmen, if you would. So they're not gods themselves. They serve the Lord, as do we, which is one of the big confusions, misinterpretations of African spirituality. People think the divinities are the creator. They're not. They serve the creator just as we do. But when you're born under the influence of one of them, and that particular energy walks with you throughout your life. So the children will know if they're a child of Ogun, I'm a child of Oshun, I'm a child of Yemoja, I'm a child of Eshu, and they will also be required to master the characteristics of their particular divinity. So, for example, I'm a son of Ogun. Ogun is the energy of iron, metal, war, strength, power, determination, commitment. And all of the children of Ogun will study with me to master Ogun energy, because that is what's in their heart. So they need to learn that divine aspect of who they are.
And I've dabbled a little bit in the Yoruba religion, but I could imagine how high I would rise if I were in those classes mastering those divinities.
Brother David, what we're going to do, and I don't want anyone listening to think I am bragging, because obviously we have a long way to go with all these acts of sabotage that's being committed against our 4-building campus. But I'm telling you, we have something nobody else got. And people always ask me, okay, that's great, but on top of that, what is your secret weapon? And again, I say this in all humility. The one thing FDMG got, no other school got, is somebody called DrUmarJohnson.
That is true. That is
and
true.
I will be the teacher. I will be the political science teacher. I'm the Garvey teacher, the Douglas teacher. I will be one of the African spirituality teachers. No other school has me. I am teaching your children. And the reason I decided to do that, Baba David, is because if I only function as the principal, that's not good enough, because they're sending their children there to be filled up with that Umar energy, that Ifatunde. They have to experience me directly. It's not enough for me to be the principal. They have to have me in class, and that's
come in contact.
I'm going to be exactly, which is why I'm going to be a principal teacher. And by the way, the school principal used to be called the principal teacher. Traditionally, in American school, the principal was also a teacher. It was like a player coach, if you would. A player coach. You always taught and you led. But as time went on, they separated and removed the principal out of the class. Well, I'm going back into the class.
Now, when I think Cliff mentioned about how he didn't know exactly who you were, we are talking to Dr. Umar Abdul Johnson, certified child psychologist and school administrator. And he was saying how much he really appreciates you, and I appreciate you as well. And I wanted to know, how do you mentioned this a little bit earlier about being on both ends of the spectrum, the most loved and the most hated. But how do you deal with that? I mean, because when you go to places that you admire and love, you get a lot of adulations and slaps on the back. But when you go to those other places where you get sneers and eye rolls and run into a lot of Karens of the world, how do you deal with that?
I would say I would have to thank Philadelphia. Because as you know, because I've been on your show many times, even before I blew up in 2010. And, my history in Philly has some tumultuousness to it, because I was with the UNIA, and then there was other young guys who was kind of jealous of my influence there. So I had that. Philly was a microcosm for the macrocosm. It was almost the same thing. I was the most loved of the young activists in the city, and I was the most hated, because those who were in competition with me could not outdo me. And all that did was just go global now. Instead of just being in Philly, now I got 7 continents to deal with. So I would say Philly prepared me well for it. Like, it doesn't really faze me. Sometimes it does get disheartening not because I can't deal with it, but because we're supposed to be fighting together. And that's what bothers me. Every one of us are blessed with a unique talent, a unique set of capabilities. And we have to find what that is. I don't believe God sent anyone here lacking in the ability to lead effectively in a certain area. The problem, Baba David, is everyone wants to be in the leadership role, the organizer role, but you ain't oratory. You ain't got the presence, the charisma, or the intelligence to handle that. But I bet you're good at something else. It almost reminds me of our children, Baba David, where all black boys want to be basketball players and football players. But guess what? You might be a better tennis player. Did you ever try that out? You might be a better golfer. You could be the next Tiger Woods, but you never gave yourself a chance. What about baseball? What about swimming for our young ladies? You might be the next Serena or Venus, but everybody wants to be football and basketball. You want to be a rapper, but you might be a better R&B singer. You see, you might want to be a dancer, but you might be an expert piano player. The trumpet may be your gift. And I see the same problem in black consciousness where everybody wants to be a leader. You're not suited for that. Some of us are born to do that. I'm related to Frederick Douglass, for crying out loud. It's in my blood. I'm here to, that's my gift. I can't do some other things that you guys can do. And everybody needs to find what their expertise is, their God-given talent, and stop fighting over who the leader should be, because the people are going to choose who they want to lead them. You don't have to fight. The people are going to gravitate to the ones they want to represent them, and I happen to be one of those people they gravitate to.
And I'm glad that you were chosen for this particular task, because I appreciate your contribution to humanity. And what I don't understand is how people, like I said before, show me the lie. If I heard you speaking and lecturing many times, and I ain't heard you tell no lie yet. So I think Patrick had something that he wanted to...
Yeah, I want to say this, Dr. Umar. Everybody want to be a leader. It's actually really very orchestrated to divide us the more, because the more everyone want to be a leader, the more everyone don't want to listen to anybody, the more we are a community of leaderless. Everyone want to lead, and so we become leaderless community because we are all leaders, and this is all planned by the media. They tell everybody you can be the same thing the other person can be. They tell everybody you have the equal right to do whatever the other person is able to do.
Well, I said, do what you're made for.
Yes. So the whole thing is that people are not listening to those who are the expertise in certain areas, and of course, the media loves that. Yeah, when you even go to the African, let's go to Africa right now. In Africa today, let's say in Ghana today, we got too many leaders, and we don't have anybody who is actually taking the charge, because everyone want to be a leader, and they're not actually listening to the actual leaders who have the natural build up to lead the country. So any information that is being pumped into the community is misleading.
They used to have a saying back in the days, you have too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
Yes.
But like Brother Umar says, everybody's chosen for something different. What I do, maybe you can't do. What you can do, maybe I can't do. But if we do things together to raise the nation, then the nation will get risen.
Exactly. That's why you have to, as a community, we have to identify everybody's a level of expertise,
the talent,
your line of expertise, so that if you are good at something, you be there, so that you can bring whatever contribution you can bring, so that we can make it a whole. But right now, everybody want to be everybody else, and we all become nobody else.
What do you think about the effect of the minimization of churches? Will that affect the religious schools?
Well, most black churches ain't even thinking about a religious school. So that's another issue we have, whereas a lot of white churches, they're all about controlling the education of their kids, of the church schools. But most black churches don't have schools. They have daycares, because they need money, but they're not vested in the education of our children. And then even the ones that do have church schools, they limit enrollment to kids of that particular religion. So obviously I'm going to have a big problem with that. Being a Pan-Africanist and a Garveyite, your school should be for all black children, whether they belong to that religion or not. The Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy is for any African boy. He does not have to be a practitioner of Ifa. Okay, he could be Christian, Muslim. I don't care what his religion is. It is for racial solidarity and improvement, not to push a particular doctrine. And that's one of the problems we have. But my question would be, are the churches closing down because the mega churches are taking over? I mean, is it a Blockbuster to Netflix kind of a thing where the Blockbusters started closing down and going out of business? Not because black folks didn't like watching movies. It's just that Netflix made it more convenient to get your movie. So are they moving out of the church, or are they moving out of the storefront into the mega church?
Or going to the mega church, or just watch it on TV.
Yeah, I'd rather they watch it on TV than go. At least there's some separation, because the church, the pastor and the politician and the pimp are all really the same person with different outfits on. Because what they all use, and they're masterful. To be a masterful pimp, a masterful politician, and a masterful preacher, you have to be a master of imagination manipulation and emotional manipulation. If you cannot manipulate emotion and you cannot get people to tap into their imaginations, you will never get the effect that a Barack Obama had when he ran for office. You'll never get the effect, of a Creflo Dollar. You got to be able to do both. You got to manipulate emotions, get people all up in their feelings, and then you got to be able to get them to buy into your dream. They have to see that illusion that you're painting for them so clearly. If you can do those two things, you will be an excellent pimp, pastor, or politician.
Excellent pimp. Get a PhD in pimping.
Absolutely. Same person, 3 different outfits, and there's no disrespect. There are exceptions to the rule, but nobody can deny, though, even if you are genuine, even if you are authentic, even if you are sincere, to be effective on the pulpit, you have to be a manipulator of emotions and imagination.
That's how.
There's no pastor in history who you can name who was effective and not a good manipulator of emotions and imagination. Psychologically speaking, you must do both.
That's how Donald Trump got in the White House. He manipulated those emotions.
Absolutely. How did Barack Obama get black people to sit still for 8 years while white America took us back in time so he could have a comfortable presidency? Emotions and imagination. And Donald Trump woke us up from Obama put us to sleep, and Donald Trump rung the alarm bell. And some people say, who do you want to win, Donald Trump or Joe Biden? Well, they're both white racists and white supremacists. It doesn't really matter. But to be blatantly honest, if I had to choose one or the other, I would want Trump to stay. Because Trump, the gift that Donald Trump brings, the gift that George Bush and his father brought, the gift that they bring is awareness. They make black people aware that America don't like you and America ain't going to do nothing for you. That awareness is infinitely more beneficial than a Joe Biden or Barack Obama or Bill Clinton, who is still going to stab you in the back, but through emotion and imagination manipulation, actually make you think you're gaining something. Give me the president who's going to make us more aware of our reality. Don't give me the one that's going to give us a shot of Novocaine and put us to sleep.
That's what I was just saying, a tranquilizer.
A tranquilizer.
A sedative. Give them a sedative. That's what they did with their drug overflow in our communities. They wanted to sedate us because we were starting to rise up consciously after the Black Power movement. They said, we're going to have to sedate these people.
Absolutely. They sedated us. And the reason why we can't get nothing done in the community is because most black folks are addicted to some sort of escapism. They do not want to engage their reality, and they do not want to try to change their reality. Whether they're addicted to food, sex, shopping, dating outside the race, alcohol, weed, cigarettes, crack. Most of our people are addicted to something, religion, and it is that addiction that allows them to escape the reality and responsibilities of being black. And I think, Baba, for those in the community who are not fond of a Dr. Umar, or who may not have been fond of a Malcolm X or fond of a Honorable Marcus Garvey, is because we don't allow you to escape. I am not going to give you a panacea for your pain. I'm going to tell you that your ass going to keep hurting until you decide to do something about the hurt. I'm not going to give you Jesus. I'm not going to give you Muhammad. I'm not going to give you some ice cream or some weed or some alcohol. We're going to end your pain by working it out, not praying it out, marching it out, or voting it out.
Thinking it out.
Absolutely.
That's so. Well, listen, we're going to take a one last break. We got another one coming up, but we're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to hear some closing comments from Dr. Umar Abdul-Johnson. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we're back live here in the studios of 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live worldwide at WURDradio.com. I'm David Barnes, photo man for you too. On the phone line with us is second Sunday of the month co-host Dr. Umar Abdul-Johnson is on the phone line with us. We have a call all the way from New Orleans. I want to say good evening, caller. Welcome to New Worldview.
Hey, God bless you. Good evening to everyone there, and I'll be making a donation to Dr. Johnson School.
Hey, congratulations.
Yes, sir. We got so many sabotagers out there. I'd like to ask the doctor, we hear so many times a lot of leading blacks speaking about, black alliances with, maybe Native Americans or black-brown alliance. But in the past, many of these so-called alliances that blacks try to make with other groups really don't bring much back to the black community. Is that part of blacks trying to live somewhat in a fantasy land and not to try to do things on their own and then reach out for people, other groups when you need them, when you can't do any more? But a lot of times we don't take the first step, but yet we want to make alliances with others.
Question. I have 3 quick points. Point number 1, law of political science. Disorganized groups are always taken advantage of better organized groups. Disorganized groups are always taken advantage of by more organized groups. When you had the Black-Jewish Alliance back at the beginning of the 20th century, Jews benefited more from us because they were more organized. LGBTQs right now are benefiting more from laws black people fought for because they are more organized. So until we get organized, we shouldn't even be talking coalition. Second point, even if we were organized, we don't need any of them, okay, because number 1, none of them have ever systematically stood up to protect black people. No group has ever systematically stood up to help us. You have had individuals from those groups who may have stood up, but systematically no community has ever come to the aid of black folks. So why do we need them now? And the third and last point is that our history in America is so unique. We're the only ones who are enslaved here. The only ones. We built this country. It is so unique that to form a coalition, in my opinion, is to devalue that uniqueness. To form a coalition is to obscure how original the black experience has been in America. I believe we need to stay independent. We need to be for ourselves. We don't need any political coalitions with no one else, because our most effective fight is a fight where we do not have to share the platform with anyone else.
That's great. That's great. Can I ask one more question?
Certainly.
Okay. Dr. Johnson, are you familiar with this doctor? I guess her name is Jane Elliott.
Yes, I am.
Okay. I'm not familiar with her too much, but I was at a black website that calls themselves being for the upliftment of the black community. But they said this particular Dr. Jane Elliott, who was a white lady, did more for the black community than Malcolm X did. What kind of thinking? I didn't even bother to read anything about Jane Elliott because I knew that was such an absurd statement. It wouldn't be worth my time reading. But what would promote blacks to think that any individual, white individual, could do more for the black community than Malcolm X?
Well, first of all, I'm surprised they even said that. I have nothing against Jane Elliott. She's one of these ultra-liberal white people who very aggressively expose racism. I can respect it. I can appreciate it. But here's my question for Jane Elliott, Tim Y., and any other ultra-liberal white person who feels they're on a crusade to expose racism. What are you doing to dismantle racism and your white privilege in America besides talking about it and writing about it? Anybody can talk about it. Anybody can write about it. And when they say she's done more for Malcolm X, what they're saying is she's been talking more on radio and TV than Malcolm X, because as a privileged white woman, she's obviously more acceptable to white people than a Malcolm X. But what has she actually done to change the system? The answer is nothing.
Right. And this is a black Facebook type that made this kind of statement, you know. That's it.
Well, you know, black folks in love with white folks. We are absolutely white people.
We need to have whites at the head of as leadership of the black movement. Or some,
and you know what? We don't mind. I don't think black people mind. I'm telling you, black people would accept a white leader over a black one.
Look how many years we had black mayor here in Philadelphia. Did they say, "Oh, we tired of black mayors here in Philadelphia. We're going to elect us a white mayor"?
That's right. Anybody who has ever been in charge of black people as a manager or a supervisor on a job, as have I as a former school principal and in other roles that I've had, you know that black people have a difficult time accepting order, criticism, and accountability from a black person in a superior position. They hate it. White person, no problem. Chinese, no problem. Latino, no problem. Arab, no problem. East Indian, no. Mexican, no problem. But don't you give me a black supervisor. We are not used to that. And we've been taught by white people that we don't have to respect other black people, and we don't.
Yep, that's exactly what they've been conditioned to think, that they don't have to abide by a black man's authority, no matter what stage of authority.
I'll give you one real simple. I do a trip to Africa every summer. I think I've done 6 or 7. Obviously, we didn't go this year because if we were going this year, we would be leaving this week. So, of course, that hurts my heart, but COVID, we got to postpone till next summer. Every single year, I've led the trip. Every single summer. And I've enjoyed it, and it's been a good group. But here's the point I want to make. There's always a male, without fail, there's always a male who wants to try to undermine my authority as the leader of the group. Now, mind you, this is a social trip. We ain't even doing nothing political. We having fun. But they always look, every trip there's a different brother who tries to undermine my leadership. And it's always a sister who tries to undermine my leadership. It's always a different person. It's never the same person year after year. But it happens like clockwork, so much so you can predict it because we've been trained to treat each other like that.
That's sad, you know. I understand because it's even during my show here, sometimes people want to usurp my authority and just do what they want to do. It's like I don't even exist, you know. But you know, that's the same.
Black people have to remind people we're in charge. White people don't have to remind black people that they're in charge
because that's what they.
And then they say, "Oh, they power tripping." They're not power tripping. They're in charge. Respect the leadership.
Yep, respect authority. Authority doesn't have to be a derogatory term. You know, your parents are your authority.
Authority is black.
And that's one of the reasons why a lot of children today don't respect the authority of even their parents.
Yes, yes.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Eric from New Orleans. So, Dr. Umar, any closing comments that you want to make today to our listeners? I know that we've had some callers off air, wanted to make sure they had the correct name of the school because they wanted to make a contribution. And I know Eric, that we just got off the phone with from New Orleans, I truly believe that he is sincere in making a contribution. He was very supportive of Professor Carlton Jones' Independence Day project, where he did a documentary, and Eric was very supportive in that. So if he says he's going to be supportive and make a contribution to the Marcus Garvey Academy, Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, then I truly believe that he will do that.
Oh, absolutely. And I want to also let your listeners know they can text me for the donation information. Area code 215-989-9858. Area code 215-989-9858. I can send them the donation information that way. Also wanted to let them know that my second book will be coming out next month, Black Parent Advocate, The Art of War for Dealing with America's Public and Charter Schools, and I will be doing book signings at both Hakeem's Bookstore, as well as the African Cultural Arts Forum, which is right across the street from Hakeem. So,
when is that? When is that? I'm gonna come up and holler at you.
You know what? We'll be on it. We'll.
Oh, that'll be virtual.
We would have had another show by then.
Okay, all right.
Another show by then. Next month's show, Brother David. What I'll do is I'll make sure the signing isn't until after next month's show, so we can announce it on our August show.
Great and wonderful. Because I want to get by there to Hakeem's Bookstore on 52nd Street and ASCAP as well. So, well, listen, I want to thank you again, Brother Umar.
Yes, sir.
Johnson. It's always a pleasure talking with you. It's always enlightening. And we always learn something from you. So I want to thank you again and look forward to talking to you again next second Sunday of the month right here on New Worldview.
Yes, sir. Take care, fellas. God bless.
God bless.